Welcome back. We're going to turn to Greenland now. A congressional delegation, I beg your pardon, is in Denmark, most of them Democrats who have travelled to Copenhagen to counter Donald Trump's threats. In the last few minutes, we've had these pictures in. This is the group arriving at the Danish Parliament for a meeting with lawmakers. The Danish Foreign Minister, you might recall, was in Washington on Wednesday for a meeting at the White House, which was not especially productive. And since then, a limited contingent of European troops have begun arriving in Greenland to bolster security. Our Europe editor Katja Adler is in Nuuk and sent this report.
So what you can see over there is a Danish naval vessel. It regularly patrols Greenland. The coast here is fundamental to defence. What they're looking out for is suspicious activity over or underwater. So ships, Donald Trump has spoken of Chinese or Russian ones, you don't see them here, or under the water, submarines, like Russian submarines, for example. But apart from them, what you have is the arrival now of troops and vessels from other European NATO allies, including the UK, Germany and France. Now, they say they're coming here as part of a regular exercise, but the speed at which they've arrived absolutely coincides with Donald Trump's loud insistence that he wants Greenland for the United States, and he hasn't ruled out taking it by force. Denmark is extremely relieved that its European allies in NATO are supporting it over Greenland. The hope is that all of their presence here will make it a lot more awkward for Donald Trump to take this island by force, if that's what he chooses to do, though it would be hard to stop him.
Katja Adler there in Greenland. Thomas Carruthers is the director of the Democracy, Conflict and Governance programme at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Earlier, I spoke with him and I asked him whether anyone has influence over how President Trump proceeds on the issue of acquiring Greenland.
This is a president who makes his own foreign policy. He said recently, towards the end of the year, no one can stop me. He feels unchecked. He feels unbounded, and thus Greenland surged onto his agenda in recent times, but it's an old obsession of his. In his first term, he was talking about Greenland. At the time, his advisors kind of poo-pooed it and just tried to call his attention to other issues. He's come back to it. He's serious about it, and therefore the unpredictability here, and I would say the danger, remains high.
Yeah, I mean, that might shift, of course, after the midterms in November, but November is a long way away if you're Denmark. Can you see a scenario where US troops and European troops might come face to face?
No, right now I cannot see that. I think that Donald Trump has not really thought clearly through what that would really look like, what its implications would be for U.S. security and how it would present to the world. He's acting here by gesture, by instinct, by impulse. You know, the meeting between the Danish foreign minister and Greenland's leading diplomat with Vice President Vance and Secretary of State Rubio kind of represented the meeting of the Danish visitor from Greenland with the id and the superego of Donald Trump's foreign policy, the id in the form of the Vice President Vance, who represents the impulsive America first, a very nationalistic foreign policy, and Rubio, somewhat more sober diplomat, trying to find a solution. And so Vance had pushed to be in that meeting. So in a sense, we saw both Donald Trump's ego and superego there in the room fighting for control over U.S. policy.
Thomas Carruthers there from the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Well, as I mentioned, the group of lawmakers from the US Congress are now in Copenhagen. In the last few minutes, we've been hearing from the Democratic Senator Peter Welch. He is part of that delegation, and he's been speaking about his support for Danish sovereignty over Greenland.
We're reinforcing our support, complete support for the sovereignty and right of self-determination of Greenland. We're here to reassert our appreciation for the role Denmark plays in our national security. We want to stand up and make a stronger, not a weaker NATO. So this is just an expression by a bipartisan group of members of Congress that we appreciate Denmark. We need Denmark, and we support a continuation of our cooperative relationship.
But if the president is set on buying or occupying Greenland, what can you do?
Well, part of what we're doing is showing there's a lot of America that doesn't agree with that. Also, we're an independent branch of government, so we can take actions on our own, and we to get our colleagues in Congress to be reminded of how tremendous our relationship is with Denmark.
Good luck.
Yeah, that delegation led by Senator Coons, who was previously very close to the former President Joe Biden. But there are a couple of Republicans as part of that team as well. We'll continue to follow that closely.